Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Corporate Services Committee meeting of Wednesday, September. Boy, time flies. Wednesday, April the 15th, 2026. This is an indication of how this meeting is going to go today, okay? I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask the clerk to conduct a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bateman.
Present.
Councillor Campion. Councillor Diodati.
I'm here.
Acting Regional Chair Ganan.
Present.
Councillor Grant. Councillor Height.
Present.
Councillor Encina.
I am here, thank you.
Councillor Olson.
Present.
Councillor Redekop. Councillor Seaborn.
Present.
Councillor Secord.
I'm present.
Councillor Cisco.
Indeed.
Councillor Whalen. Councillor Zalepa.
I'm here, thank you.
And I see Councillor Grant has joined us, and we're also joined today by Councillor Sorrento.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to read the land acknowledgement this morning. Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandurunk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. For our meeting this morning, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we are going to move into a presentation this morning. I'm going to call on Ron Tripp, Chief Administrative Officer, to provide some introductory remarks prior to the presentation from Niagara College.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Obviously, you have a presentation before you today by President Sean Kennedy from Niagara College. I just wanted to provide some opening context. There's been a conversation happening with Niagara College and senior staff at the region since about the fall of last year, and the desire to make this presentation and be before committee. It's just logistics and circumstantial things prevented it until this time, so it's timely now that they're here. Ultimately, Sean is going to speak to a project expansion of the college that's happening in Welland, which concludes with a request for some support from the region. Although there are no decisions to be made today, Council is likely recalls or is aware there has been a history of support for capital investment at Niagara College and Brock University in the past. And then again, subject to a fulsome report back from staff, subject to the discussion that happens here today, there are potential strategies for that support of that capital build that don't represent an incremental increase to the tax levy. So just a heads up on that, but it'd be subject to a report back from staff as well as subject to the deliberations of council. Thank you.
It's just testing.
We have an alarm going off within the building, so we're going to deal with this at this moment. For those of you that are online, I think we have it figured out what's going on here, and so this has turned out to be an interesting meeting so far. I'm in September, and we had a fire alarm test go off. So anyway, we should be back moving within the next couple minutes. So everybody, I believe, is back in. I don't see Councillor Bateman back in yet. Are all the councillors back? We think? Okay. Mr. Kennedy, please come forward.
I'm just standing. All right, there we go. I clearly haven't done this in a while. All right, well, this is great. I love it. First of all, I just want to say good morning and thanks for that, fire alarm intro. Like, I really feel like what I'm about to say is really hot. But it is a pleasure to be here. It's been a little while since we've been had this chance to be here. It's been a while since I've had a chance to present to council. We've had a lot going on, but so have you. So it's really great to be here. As I am sure all of you know, Niagara College is absolutely integral to every aspect of the economy, every sector in Niagara. And I want to start by just talking about the different, just to highlight a few of the different ways that we support Niagara. I mean, I always think about Niagara College and the region of Niagara as an entity and as an employer. You are an employer of hundreds of our grads in all departments across the region of Niagara, but also writ large, the connection between Niagara College and every municipality, every sector, and every employer across this region is tightly interwoven. And I think that's, really our success is tied to the success of the Niagara region and vice versa. So just a few, let me go back. A few highlights here and a few photos. And, I'm happy to talk about Niagara for an hour, but I have a short bit of time. So I just wanted to highlight a few areas that we're really focused on. That first photo you'll see there is, of course, with one of the senior executives from Masai Kase. We were involved through multiple visits in hosting, and these were quiet visits, in hosting representatives from Masai Kase in our Advanced Manufacturing and Innovation Center. And we know one of the reasons they chose Niagara, and we've heard this many times, was because of how impressed they were by the quality of our facilities, of our programs, the confidence they had that we would be able to supply the skilled workforce that they need, and by our applied research facilities. Right now, Masai Kase is co-located, in fact, in the Walker Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center. That's where their Niagara offices are. Have been there for the last year and will be there for another year. They love being on campus. They love the interactions with our faculty, with our students, and the chance to see our research facilities, and we love having them. Another emerging area that I think is really critical, and you'll see the photo on the top right, we always pride ourselves on being trailblazing, introducing programs that are the first of their kind in Ontario or the first of their kind in Canada. We have a long history of doing that, trying to anticipate where the workforce needs are going to be. And we certainly have done that with our new Defense Systems Engineering Technology program. It's an evolution of our photonics program, and the response by industry, particularly a focus on marine, land, and aerial drones, but the response by industry has been overwhelming. I had, at our open house recently, industry came to our open house. It was very popular with prospective students, but the industry, it took me and said, we're so glad Niagara College is offering this. We'll hire every one of your graduates. And as we think about where Niagara goes, and as you give thought to, where Niagara goes in terms of other sectors and growth to support economic development, we think that this, certainly the defense industry, knowing where Canada is right now, it's a great opportunity for Niagara to get more involved in the defense industry as we think about sovereign defense manufacturing and supply chains. And we're really pleased to be offering this program, I think, at just the right moment in time when the country has turned its attention to thinking about defense and the defense industry within Canada very differently. We're also very proud of the fact that through our applied research and innovation area, we support hundreds of SMEs and larger manufacturers every year. We become the research and development arm for many companies. And our model, which is very different than the university model, is that companies own the intellectual property. It's industry-driven research. So they come to us and say, we would like to develop a new product in this area. If it fits with one of our many areas of excellence, we work with them and provide our faculty and student expertise and our facilities, which are state-of-the-art, to help them develop a new product. And then we help them commercialize it. But throughout it all, they own the intellectual property. We also work with many companies on productivity challenges and help them identify areas for improvement in productivity. And you'll see just a few of our many partners there that we have worked with over the last few years. And as you can see, it spans Niagara and it spans every sector. Of course, we work with the region of Niagara in a number of ways, and certainly very closely with Niagara Economic Development. So I'm here today to talk about the project that we have prioritized above all else, because we recognize how important it is to Niagara and to Niagarans. There's not a week that goes by where we don't hear from Niagara Health System, from Niagara EMS, from the region, from long-term care facilities, from Hotel Dieu, Shaver, about their need for us to produce more graduates in all areas of health and allied health. We have, at the same time, hundreds of students from Niagara who want access to those programs that we have to leave on a wait list. And as I mentioned, we have hundreds of jobs on the other end. This facility will fill that gap because it will give us the labs and the teaching facilities required to support an increase of over 800 graduates a year in our health and allied health programs. And I would just like to play a short video which introduces this project.
There is a desperate need in Niagara for more frontline healthcare workers. And so the expansion is our effort to help meet that need.
In the first decade upon its opening, that building will train more than 8,000 additional healthcare professionals, nurses and PSWs and practical nurses and paramedics and dental professionals, because as Niagara grows, so does the need for this increase in our healthcare workforce. So just to expand a little more on what this new facility will enable, as we talked about, it expands our Applied Health Institute by 75,000 square feet to provide an opportunity for an increase in a wide range of programs where there's huge employer demand and projected to be even greater employer demand as we move forward. It will also double the size of our community clinics which serve often lower income individuals or those that have a challenge receiving dental care. At the moment, we serve about 1,500 Niagarans every year, and this will expand our capacity to serve that population to 3,000 Niagarans every year. We'll also have other clinics that will serve the public. It's a cornerstone of who we are. We have learning enterprises on campus that serve the public and give our students the hands-on experience they need to be Monday morning ready when they graduate. One of the critical needs that, and as I mentioned earlier, that we hear of very often, and Niagara Health System is very keen on this, but so are so many other healthcare providers across the region, including Niagara EMS. Niagara's population is growing. There continues to be high demand for increased healthcare, and of course, we're very aware of the new hospital. That will truly be a state-of-the-art hospital, but a brand new building with great equipment only gets you so far. It only runs because of the skilled workforce to enable that top-level care. And what we're building and what we're asking your support for is to enable us to deliver the infrastructure to ensure that the human capital is available to meet what will be, in this particular instance, a remarkable new facility, in terms of the physical capital and the equipment. 80% of all jobs in the hospital and in the health system are college trained, and I think it's something to remember. And sometimes people, think about doctors, which of course are critical, but everything else around those doctors in a hospital are college trained. And this is why Niagara Health and all healthcare providers in Niagara are so keen on us building this new building to increase the number of graduates we have every year. On the paramedic side, we are the only provider of paramedics in Niagara and in Hamilton, and so we have letters of support because we are also asking the province for funding to help make this building a possibility. We have support from Niagara EMS, but also from Hamilton EMS because they recognize their own workforce challenges and projections moving forward. And we have incredible demands and in terms of them wanting us to produce more graduates, and huge support from long-term care homes across Niagara who recognize the importance of this project. Just to highlight the program areas that will be expanded with this new building, of course, our Bachelor of Science in Nursing, our practical nursing degree, personal support worker, dental hygiene, dental assisting, paramedic, as I mentioned, pharmacy technician, massage therapy, and then by extension, because it will free up other spaces, programs like occupational therapy assistant and physiotherapy assistant. Just last week, our Dean of Health was visiting Hotel Dieu Shaver, and they mentioned how with their expansion, they need, was yet another reminder of the importance of this project, that they will need an increase in our graduates to meet their needs in the rehabilitation medicine space. The project total budget is $75 million. It's about $60 million in capital build and then about $15 million in equipment. We are in terms of the $60 million capital build in rough ballpark figures, we are hoping to fundraise $20 million, about a third. We're planning to draw from our own reserves for a third, and we are asking the province for the other third. In our talks with the province, they have frequently said you have support from the region and municipalities. So as we push forward on the provincial ask, I want to reinforce and ask for your support in terms of helping us meet that $20 million commitment in fundraising. We're very pleased that we've made incredible progress on our fundraising. This clearly resonates with donors and Niagarans. We've raised $15 million through our Together campaign, that will be allocated to the new building. So we're getting close to that $20 million goal. And the request before you today will help us bridge that gap and get us to that $20 million. So the request to you is that you consider a funding contribution of $2 million to support us to get this building built, to get it built in the very near future, as we have cleared the ground. If you've driven past our campus, you'll know that. And to get this shovels in the ground and to have this built within the next 16 months. And we hope to have have the building open and be able to expand our intake in fall of 2027. So we're very acutely aware of how pressing the workforce needs are and the need for us to expand the number of graduates. So we are pushing forward as quickly as we can to ensure that the building is ready and we can expand starting in fall of 27. I will close there and happy to take any questions. I think the only other thing I would mention is, your support over the years has been critical in the success of the college. It's been a long time since we've come back to make a request like this. This is a unique project that will serve Niagarans for decades to come and serve multiple areas, every community, but multiple areas of healthcare in terms of healthcare delivery. And it will also enable hundreds more young Niagarans who are interested in these professions to come to school here in Niagara and stay in Niagara. We had about a year ago at this time, we had 800 students, more than 800, close to 900 students at that point in time, who were waitlisted for this set of programs. And the vast majority of those students are from Niagara. These are young Niagarans who are very interested in these professions that are fully meet our admissions requirement, but we have jobs for them on the other end. We have employer demand, but we cannot expand our intakes, so we leave them on the wait list and they often go elsewhere or defer their plans altogether because we don't have the facilities, and this helps to meet that gap. So it certainly supports healthcare and healthcare workforce needs in every community across Niagara, and it also supports access to these hugely important professions for young Niagarans. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So questions, we'll start with Councillor Redekop.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. Your presentation makes reference to the dental clinic, and are there mobile dental clinics?
We don't have a mobile dental clinic. Partly because our model is to ensure that our students are able to get the hours they need in clinic. Under the care and supervision of dentists, we're able to serve more students with the right level of care in terms of the chairs, the equipment, the technology within the clinic. It's certainly something we could look at, but the model right now is that the patients do come to us. We're on the bus route, and this building is located directly in front of the bus stop. So access-wise, patients do come to us.
If I might, Chair, so do you have data as to where the individuals that you serve, you've mentioned 1,500 currently, planning to build that up to 3,000. Do you have any data as to where those patients come from across Niagara?
I don't have it off the top of my head. Certainly Welland, in the Welland area is where many of them come from, but we also know because of regional transit that we're serving patients that come from different parts of Niagara.
If I might, Chair, so is that information that you can share?
That's certainly information we'd be happy to share.
I'd be interested in that. You also made reference to some other clinics. When you were talking about the dental clinic, I presume that they're also related to the programs that you provide. Are those also focused on your campus, or are there any mobile?
No, these are all on-campus enterprises and services that we provide. We're looking at, and again, often low cost. I mean, this enables massage therapy clinics, another example, where people are able to come and receive massage at a much lower cost than they would otherwise. Our occupational therapy and physiotherapy assistant program is another example, again, where we're serving community needs while also enabling our students to receive the experiential training that they require.
So is there demographic information that you would have on that you could share?
Certainly happy to.
Okay, I'd be interested in that as well. And Chair, one final question. With respect to the request for funding from the region, is there anything that, or anyone at the provincial level that has suggested that this is a requirement, that there has to be some type of contribution from the communities in Niagara?
We have had meetings with the Minister of Colleges and Universities, the Ministry of Health, the Minister of Long-Term Care, the Ministry of Finance, and the Premier's office. And I can say that in every one of those meetings, the question was asked, is the regional government also supporting this project?
Thank you. I'll have some comments on that later, Chair, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Redekop. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I want to start by making a statement of appreciation for your commitment to the community and your focus, because I think your focus is exactly right on the small and medium-sized enterprises that can respond quickly to economic crisis, and it gives you a chance to future-proof your organization. I think you can even adapt to tariffs and all the rest of the stuff, because you're able to tariff-proof and future-proof the organizations with really excellent people that you're bringing along. And I want to ask you a question from the student perspective, because I think looking at a successful career of any kind in any walk of life, it involves mastering networking skills. And I think your successful careers will be using every opportunity they have to showcase what their skills and craft are to somebody else. So I appreciate the apprenticeship apprenticeship type programs, and I wonder if you could comment on that, please.
Certainly. Well, one of the things that is absolutely essential to who we are as a college is an opportunity for students to be industry connected in a variety of ways. One thing that's a differentiator for Niagara College and the college system is, but we pay particular attention to this. Every one of our 120 programs has a program advisory committee that connects our faculty and our programs to industry, and it gives us the opportunity to be responsive to industry requests and to their needs in terms of what changes we need in their curriculum and how our graduates are doing relative to what they need. And that responsiveness, I think, is critical. Then we expand on that by having industries. I mean, the apprenticeship model is very specific, so clearly students are working under a mentor as part of that structured training, so that's a cornerstone. But beyond that, through co-ops, work integrated learning opportunities, and industry professionals regularly on campus in every one of our programs, either as to teach part-time or to come in and connect with our students, it is truly a cornerstone of how we prepare our students to be Monday morning ready when they graduate.
Yes, thank you, and through you, Chair, again. I guess I look at this as a method of addressing worker shortages and skill gaps. The way you approach things and creating a more proactive and satisfied and diverse workforce, because I think this creates opportunities for more people, more diverse student groups and that type of thing. It appears to me that's what the direction you're going. Is that correct?
It is, and in fact, it will provide, again, opportunities, I think, to serve a broader range and more Niagarans that will access our services. but also enable us to open opportunities for more students, including we've had some early discussions with Niagara EMS about some specific training to support Indigenous students so that we can prepare a more diverse workforce that will respond to medical emergencies. And so I think this opens up, because we'll have more training space and more spaces available, the opportunity for us to partner with Niagara Health System. We've also had discussions along the same lines with them to ensure that we have a diverse workforce that meets the needs of what is a very diverse set of patients that they must serve.
Yes, thank you. I've come to the conclusion over the years that the term best practices is not adequate. Those are best known practices, and it takes out the element of a Kaizen influence where you have the continuous improvement, and you can buy technology, but you can't buy the real technology, and it's up here. It's not something on a bench or a machine, because those are available, and you'll never keep up with that. But you can keep up with the technology of the mind. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Height.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I happened to be in the facility in Welland the other day, and how impressed I was with your facility. The aggressive nature of your build, having it open in 16 months, they're going to be working on that site in the next number of weeks or months and getting it ready to get this completed for 2027. You're 5 million short, is that what you're telling us? That you're looking at that 75 million area and you're 5 million short?
We've tried to split that up a little bit in terms of the 60 million for capital construction, about 15 million for equipment. And of the 60 million, we've just set a broad goal that a third we have planned to draw from college reserves. And I should note this, will be no surprise to anyone in this room, I'm sure, that the college system has been in utter budget turmoil in the last 2 years due to changes, dramatic changes related to our international student program. Changes by the federal government. And so one reason we're here is we don't have the financial flexibility that we would have had a few years ago. So we are going to draw down from the college reserves, about 20 million of that 60. We have a fundraising target of 20 million, and we're at 15 now. And this will help get us to that target of 20 million. And we've asked the province for the other third of that 60 million. With the remaining amount of equipment being drawn from other donors and from the college reserves, depending on how well our fundraising efforts go.
Okay, follow up on the 2 million you're asking the region. Are you looking at it over time, 10 years? You looking at that kind of commitment, or you're looking for it over a shorter period of time?
I mean, that, of course, we will be thrilled and very appreciative of any support you can provide. I think that becomes more of a budget question for you. But in terms of cash flow for us, a multi-year commitment does work. I mean, something over 2 or 3 years would certainly, would span kind of our cash flow outlay relative to the project.
Okay, my last question is, are you also making a similar presentation to local municipalities, Niagara on the Lake, Welland, St. Catharines, etc.?
We are. I think but the scope and scale. We'll be talking to. We have asked, and we have received support in the past from Welland and the town of Niagara on the Lake, where we're located. But we haven't. We are coming to the region because it reflects, I think, the regional needs. We only think regionally at Niagara College. We are Niagara College, and we know that this project spans every community across Niagara. So we may look at additional asks, but this is our most significant ask in terms of support from a regional perspective.
Okay, thank you. The reason I asked that question, obviously, is it is a regional college beyond that, but if you're going to go to the local municipalities as well, then there could be some concern in my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I actually thank you for the question, because as I mentioned, we have gone to Welland and Town of Niagara, and received support in the past, but not specifically for this project. And if we get this ask, again, I can't stress how this is a transformational historic project that will serve Niagara for decades to come. We're not doing another one. This is it. And it's well thought through. It meets the needs of every sector of our healthcare workforce. It anticipates growth in those demands. And what we're hoping for is the support from the region, and that will mean that helps us on that regional municipal level reach our goals. So we would not anticipate further discussions with councils. We'll of course accept any additional support for other types of programs, scholarships, and so on. But in terms of the project, this is really the ask at the regional municipal level.
That's it? Thank you. Councillor Bateman.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you for being here. I too, like many of us in this room, am a proud graduate of Niagara College. Did you mention, and I'm sorry I missed the beginning of your presentation, but did you mention any contributions by the federal government?
I haven't mentioned anything. We, of course, would greatly welcome that. What has happened during the course of our fundraising campaign is the Build Canada Strong program was announced by the federal government. At this point, the parameters around that are still being worked out. It could be that, and that it requires, I don't know if you know, the structure is that it'll be federal and needs to be matched provincially, and those details are still being worked out. So we haven't made a federal ask because the federal government is not generally involved in supporting higher education. It's a provincial matter. Mm-hmm. It could be that the province, may look at some of that, but we will also, as the details of that program become available, because it's very rare that there's an opportunity to ask the federal government for support. Sometimes in applied research, we receive a fair degree of support in applied research from the federal government, but outside of that, it's not usually that level of government we would look to. But with that new program, there's an allowance to support higher education. We're hoping, because we're so far along here and we don't want to wait for those details worked out, to finish this, get shovels in the ground, and get underway. We certainly would look at that new funding envelope opportunity through the Build Canada Strong program for expansion of our skilled trades and technology area, because that is another need we have. This is the priority need just in terms of student demand and workforce demand. But we will look to access that program for other expansions.
Thank you, President Kennedy. Chair, where can we ask staff questions when it is appropriate to ask staff questions about this?
When the report comes back.
So another day?
Yep.
Okay. All right. No other questions. Thank you.
Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Scott, for the presentation. The college just keeps growing and growing. It's fantastic. I think when a few of us went there was 6 rooms, and the way it's expanded now is fantastic. So thank you for all your work and everybody involved with it. Is this your initial kickoff, or do you have more things planned as far as fundraising, like with the NHS or different healthcare professionals?
Yes. So the Together campaign is actually a $50 million campaign. $20 million is focused on our new healthcare education building. But we have received tremendous support from a number of donors for this. I mean, as I mentioned, we've raised $15 million, but also for other components, scholarships, equipment in a whole wide variety of areas, and other programming expansion opportunities. And I will say we were thrilled that the largest individual gift in college history was received to support and then found the Myhall School of Nursing from George and Rayla Myhall. They made a $5 million gift to help kickstart our fundraising for this campaign. They are new to Niagara, owners of Featherstone Winery, but I think it spoke volumes to us that they came to Niagara and we talked to them about this building and this vision, and they understood right away how important it was to support and put their money towards the project. And we're continuing to receive great donor support from a wide variety of donors, but not many are at that level. We also have received $7 million. It's the other biggest gift we've ever received from the estate of Norris Walker. And about half of that will be going to help support this building. But that all becomes part of that $15 million that's already been raised through the Together campaign for this project.
Great, thank you for that, Scott. And like I say, thank you for everything you guys do, because it's always proud to be an alumni of Niagara College. So.
Well, I will just say, I always say in almost every presentation that I make, you cannot turn around in Niagara without running into a Niagara College alumni, and clearly that's the case here as well.
Perfect. Thanks, sir, Chair.
I see no more speakers on the list. Thank you very much for the presentation.
My pleasure, thank you, and I wish you a great day. With maybe no more fire alarms, that was a great start. Thank you.
Okay, let's move into the delegation section of the meeting. There are 2 delegations on today's agenda with respect to the motion, A New Deal for Niagara. Before I call on the first delegate, I will remind the delegates of the 10-minute time limit and to ensure that their comments relate to the motion. I'll call on Herb Sawatsky first, resident town of Pelham, for his delegation. Please come forward, Herb.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you again. And I like to come here and speak in support of these things. So it's really nice to come here and speak in support of this notion brought forward by Councillors Redekop and Bateman. And thanks as well to the staff for your correspondence with me as we've progressed through this. I want to speak in support of the first slide, a new fiscal arrangement here for Niagara. Property taxes alone cannot carry the weight of all the costs that are coming our way. As I've followed the conversation around amalgamation and then reducing the size of councils, one of the things that has become very clear is just all the costs that are coming our way. To the second slide here that we have in front of us, Niagara's infrastructure deficit is $2.7 billion. You're all aware of this. There are approximately 200,000 households in Niagara, and this is from the Canadian Census, which is available through the region. Simple math says that this is $13,500 per household just for the infrastructure burden that is coming our way, that we're currently facing. This is over $5,000 per person. Now, the staff let me know that the levy, that the households cover 73% of the levy. I do not know, and staff was not able to let me know, how that applies to our infrastructure deficit. But this is a massive sum, $13,500 per household. If all of this goes into utility, because there is conversation and the mayors have asked that the deficit, or that the infrastructure deficit for water and wastewater be turned into a utility, if this entire infrastructure deficit is turned into a utility, which it then issues municipal bonds at 3.6%. So that's for Ontario municipal bonds. That's the current rate. This still is almost $500 in interest per household per year. So I'm on the next slide now. That is $500 per household per year in interest alone. And my concern is that the province wants to dump all of this into utilities. And I think there's a great use for utility companies within municipalities, and I actually think that utility companies are an underutilized tool available to us. But if this gets passed on to a utility company, it still lands in the lap of the ratepayer. It is still households that have to cover that cost. That's $500 in interest per household alone, only the interest. Now, Canadian bonds can be paid off over 30 years. I believe municipal bonds only have a 10-year cycle. However long you want to take to repay this deficit, If you take 30 years, that's still, again, an additional $500, almost $500 per year per household. And like I said earlier, I'm not exactly sure how this gets all divided up between households, between businesses, and I know that the province is supposed to pay a portion of it and apparently has not been paying their full amount. What I know as well, and what we also know, is that the median income in Niagara is $70,000 per household. Right? That's the median income per household in Niagara. That has to cover this and pay for this. This is a lot. It's not sustainable. And this is only the cost of infrastructure. The next slide. This does not this does not include the increasing costs of policing, which are going to be in the double digits, which keep coming our way. This does not cover new infrastructure for new housing, which again is going to be paid by property taxes. Property taxes alone cannot carry this weight. We need a new deal. I want to point out some things that are going right in the region that I'm very proud of. We need all four governments to work together in support of one another. We don't need all four levels of government pointing the finger at one another. As a ratepayer and as a taxpayer, my taxes go to, and at you also as well as taxpayers and as citizens, your taxes go to four levels of government. I imagine that you as citizens, as residents, as taxpayers, get as frustrated as I do when I hear different levels of government pointing the finger at other levels of government and blaming other levels of government for things. We want them to work together. Now, Caleb Ratzlaff just the other day posted on his Instagram page 4 projects for affordable housing that are taking place in St. Catharines. And I'm very confident that Councillor Cisco was in full support of all 4 of those projects. Those are examples of government working together. We want to see more of that. And perhaps you were listening to the radio yesterday morning when my mayor, Marvin Junkin, was talking about the new solar panels that are going on top of the roofs of the Meridian Center in Pelham. Those solar panels will recover their costs in 6 years. I think that is forward-looking, that is progressive, that is something that we want to see that works on all levels. I would love to see every single municipal building in Niagara put solar panels on their roofs, because electricity that we generate from solar panels is about 8-9 cents a kilowatt, which is much, much cheaper, which is the cheapest form of electricity available to us. We got roofs, they're right up there. We all know that the sun shines during the day, and we tend to be in our municipal buildings during the daytime. There are progressive things that we can do. And I encourage you as a council to support the motion brought forward by Councillors Redekop and Bateman and seek a new deal from a province where all 4 levels of government work together to serve the residents of this beautiful community. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, Herb. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Second delegate this morning is online, I believe. Dave Burnett from QP 911, paramedics, dispatchers, and occupational therapists. Good morning, Dave. You're up.
Hi, everybody. I didn't know I had 10 minutes. This one's a lot shorter. I only got 5 minutes. So yeah, my name's Dave Barnett from QP 911, President, Dispatchers, Paramedics, and Occupational Therapists. I just want to apologize for my appearance. I was trying to also make it in person. I had to work last night. It was incredibly eventful and not very restful at all. Thank you for allowing me to talk to this motion. I think it's very important, the New Deal motion, especially there's the section around asking the province to increase funding and increase their part of the cost share for the land ambulance service. And that's what I'm going to stick to talking today, just so everyone knows. So my goal today is not to assign blame, but it's to highlight the structural gap between predictable demand and how the system is funded and how we are staffed. If there's a way to improve it, then it should be explored, and it sounds like that's what the New Deal is looking for. So I was hired, a little past practice, or a little history is I got hired 17 years ago. I was actually a summer contract in Niagara. I believe these were created to deal with the summer surge. This was an established demand all the way back in 2009 when me and a group of 16 were hired on strict, I think they were 5-month contracts. They might have been less, but just so you know, this has been an identified need in the past specifically around staffing. However, before I get into talking about the predictable demand of summer call volume and staffing that's required in the summer, I just want to talk about how we're funded. I don't have Niagara specific info. I only have provincial reports from AMO is what I went off of. And AMO, which I'm sure most people know, is the Association of Municipalities. I only found that out a few weeks ago, so I'm just saying the whole thing. It details how it's supposed to be a 50-50 cost share split between the region or the municipality as well as the province. However, AMO has continuously made claims in their reports that this doesn't always take place. So I've said in the past that it could be anywhere between 45 and 55 or somewhere around those range, as they often state in their 2022 report that it only covers eligible costs. I could not find a definition of eligible costs that's clearly accessible and transparent to the public. So it made it a little bit difficult to understand how municipalities are expected to manage the increase or why they are burdened with the increase in their share of the funding. However, in their 2022 report, AMO did state that this may be due to unexpected call volume increases. Councillor Bateman, she appears to be looking for an increase in summer funding from the province, is how I read the New Deal. And I just wanted to back up that there does seem to be a demonstrated need for this increase in the service, not just for the public, for the tourists as well. It is the union stance that the residents of Niagara do increase their need at this time in the summer months, and there may be less resources actually available to them due to supporting the tourist population. Councillors, you may have access to current call volume stats, but I'm only going to stick to the public-facing stats that have been at previous council presentations. The last chart I could find that was publicly available was from October 12th, 2021, and it was called the System Pressure Update. It showed a 5-year trend, and I wish I had a slide of it, but I don't, sadly. And it shows the call volume escalating every single summer for 5 years straight, with it always crescendoing in August. In 2021, which was the most recent data that I could find that was public-facing, it showed just over 4,400 calls in February compared to around 6,000 in August, which when we were doing 60,000 calls that year, I think it was 62,000 calls that year total. It was showing that we were actually servicing 10% of our yearly call volume in just 1 month and a large volume in just those 3 months, June, July, and August. And why is this? Honestly, it's detailed in the New Deal motion, an estimated 14 million tourists influx to the region. This number changes, depends where you get it from. I've pulled 13 million. But that is a large increase. I, in fact, actually work the base that is directly in the tourist district, just down the street from Lundy's Lane. So I can attest firsthand that we're busy in the summer, incredibly busy in the summer. Beyond that, the only thing I could find for to actually show that the residents actually increased their demand during this time is I found 2 newspaper articles. Niagara News 2025, it spoke to the increase in heat-related illnesses. We're up 7.5% from last year, and we're expecting another hot summer this year, so that may increase. And September 16th, 2025, very recently, speaking about the summer and how bad it was for overdoses, and how we had up to 100 overdoses in July, which is around 82% increase from the average, which is 55 per month throughout the rest of the year. Now, currently, we do staff 2 paramedics on bikes in Niagara Falls, and this helps cope with the massive increase in summer calls. They can be incredibly busy on some days. They bike in the tourist district only, and they help us out as ambulances can often get snarled trying to get into the Clifton Hill area. And we also, last year, began staffing a truck dedicated to the Indigenous population, and they have been extended, and they are still operational to this day, I believe. So we do have definitely a demonstrated need in increase in calls. We have a slight increase in staffing where it comes to the 2 extra medics on bikes, as well as the funding for the Indigenous population. However, I want to point out July 29th, 2025, St. Catharines Standard, our former chief did speak to our staffing shortages that do peak in the summer. He did talk about it being an ongoing issue summer to summer. So we do face our challenges when the public needs us at their most. We're also dealing with the tourist population, and we're also dealing with the seasonal shortage. Therefore, I'm just going to wrap up. Keeping 911's position is pretty straightforward. Niagara needs more paramedics and dispatchers during the peak season. It's necessary to protect both the residents and the tourists, which benefit the economy of the area as well as the provincial economy. And we believe the province should be an equal funding partner in addressing this demand, which echoes AMO's concerns. And that's all I got for today. If anyone has any questions for me, or if you're gonna let me go back to sleep, I'll.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thank you for the presentation. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Dave, for that. Get some sleep.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move into our items for consideration this morning. The first is CSD 15-2026, which is a transfer of Niagara Region-owned land to the City of Welland at 456 River Road. I noticed Councillor Campion came on, so Councillor Campion, would you move that, please? Okay,
Sorry. Yeah, yes, I'm having trouble with my computer.
okay,
Yes, I'd like to move. Thank you.
great. And Councillor Grant, would you second that, please? Or if no, or Councillor Height, you can second it. Nice pictures on the screen. Are there any questions or comments to this particular report? Seeing none, please vote electronically, yes or no. That is carried. Next item is CSCC 9-2026, the motion, a new deal for Niagara. Councillor Bateman, I heard, is it Councillor Redekop seconding that? Thank you. So this particular motion is on the floor. Councillor Bateman, I'm assuming you wish to speak to it.
Thank you, Chair. So the motion I'm presenting today is around concerns around process and governance. Recent communications regarding the proposed changes under a Better Municipal Governance Act raised serious concerns for me and for many in the public. There were letters released that were developed around this legislation and issued without a fulsome discussion at this table, and notably without any clear direction from this council to pursue the positions they advance, particularly any absence of reference to seeking new fiscal arrangement or broader municipal funding framework. With all of this, there's no better time to bring forward a motion around a new deal for Niagara. So council should be at the center of, Chair. Council should be at the center of decisions that fundamentally shape how our region operates. A former chair publicly stated with pride that with the budget that he had given, that he took it to his friends in the business community and did not reach out to members of council. And that will be the process moving forward with this legislation that includes strong chair powers. And that matters because the decisions we are discussing here are not abstract. They directly impact our ability to respond to very real growing financial pressures. Niagara is facing structural fiscal challenges. We are here to advocate and not roll over and take any angry and incredibly upsetting calls from residents about their outrageous municipal tax bills that grow every year. But our solutions at council really are nickel and diming a budget proposed to us by staff. We're being asked to deliver more services in more complex areas with revenue tools that have not kept pace and without the financial support of provincial and federal governments. And increasingly, that gap is being borne by the municipal tax levy. For example, under Bill 23, we have Bill 23 has significantly reduced our development charges revenue. For Niagara, that has meant a loss of approximately $84 million in 2023 and $52 million in 2024, funding that would have supported critical infrastructure tied to growth. Those costs do not disappear. They shift to property taxes, to debt, or to deferred infrastructure. In housing and homelessness, Niagara is a service manager, and we continue to see multi-million-dollar increases since 2022, and that is still not enough. In paramedic services, rising call volumes and staffing pressures have pushed costs millions above the baseline, with municipal share exceeding intended cost-sharing levels. We have had a service built for 500,000 people that is expected to support 14 million. And I believe Canada is our #1 tourist destination. So that matters. Transit continues to require tens of millions of dollars in annual tax support, with fare recovery between 10 and 22%, with no stable external funding model. And all of this is growing the infrastructure gap. Niagara faces a $2.76 billion backlog with an annual shortfall of nearly $400 million, a clear indication that our current funding model does not align with our responsibilities. The region has, and municipalities have, up to 60% of the infrastructure costs, and we receive between 9 to 10% of the taxes that are expected to fund those services. That's from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. At the same time, again, external supports are not keeping pace. Major cost drivers, including the Niagara Regional Police Service, which represents $188.5 million in operating costs. I think that number, truthfully, is not accurate. I think it's much higher. Or 39% of our overall budget continue to place significant pressure on the levy. The Niagara Regional Police Services has recently taken an additional responsibility, including managing the Great Lakes, previously handled by the Ontario Provincial Police. Public health, while mandated, also requires substantial municipal funding due to capped provincial contributions that have not kept pace with inflation for years, and that is simply not sustainable. We were at AMO when we heard the Minister of Health, Sylvia Jones, say that they were funding 75%, and we are millions and millions of dollars short from that. I think we're close to $11 million. We are also facing a clear and concerning funding shortfall in healthcare commitments. Again, there was an $11 million gap between what was promised by the Minister of Health and what Niagara actually received, and that is not a small discrepancy. There is an impact on our ability to deliver essential services. While we are facing growing structural imbalance between what we are responsible for delivering and how we are able to pay for it, Niagara needs a new deal, and this should be our only priority. This is the only path forward for true fiscal accountability. And achieving that will require coordination beyond this table. Our members of provincial parliament, our members of parliament must be actively engaged, not just in advocacy, but in the budget process that determines how municipalities in Niagara are funded. They need to be aware. Because without that alignment, we will continue to face the same structural challenges year after year with fewer tools and greater expectations. Chair, may I read parts of this? I won't read the whole thing.
You have 10 minutes, so go ahead.
All right. So one second. Sorry. Whereas the Niagara Regional Council is a critical economic driver within Ontario and Canada, and globally recognized as a tourism destination, welcoming 14 million visitors annually. And that's from Niagara Tourism, Ontario's destination, Niagara, and generating approximately $3 billion in tourism economic activity. Whereas AMO has called for a comprehensive review of municipal service delivery responsibilities, of who does what, and the development of new fiscal tools to ensure municipalities can meet the growing service demands. Sorry, my screen keeps disappearing. Whereas the Niagara region is experiencing increasing financial pressures related to housing affordability, homelessness, transit expansion, climate adaptation, and the state of good repair infrastructure, all of which are compounded by population growth and visitor impacts. And whereas the economic benefits generated by Niagara's tourism sector and commercial trade significantly contribute to provincial and federal revenues, yet municipalities bear a disproportionate share of the costs required to sustain economic activity. Thank you. Now therefore be resolved that Niagara Regional Council call upon the province to initiate in partnership with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive review of the provincial municipal fiscal framework, including the reassessment of municipal service responsibilities, the elimination or mitigation of ongoing provincial downloading, the identification of new sustainable municipal revenues tools with the region of Niagara as the pilot. That the Niagara Regional Council advocates for a new deal for Niagara that recognizes the region's unique role as Canada's leading tourism destination that includes dedicated, predictable funding for tourism, supporting infrastructure, investment in regional transit and transportation networks, all emergency services, public health, support for housing and homelessness initiatives, revenue sharing mechanisms that reflect visitor-driven economic activity. 3, that the province of Ontario be requested to ensure that any future transfer of responsibilities to municipality is accompanied by a full and ongoing funding line with inflation. 4, that the Government of Canada, consistent with recommendations from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, be requested to expand permanent direct funding streams to municipalities, increase investments in affordable housing and enabling infrastructure, recognize and support high-impact tourism and trade corridor regions such as the Niagara region. 5, that the Niagara Regional Council requests that both the federal provincial governments fully recognize the infrastructure and service demands associated with hosting approximately 14 million visitors annually and generating approximately $3 billion in tourism activity as reported by Niagara Falls Tourism and Ontario's Destination Niagara. Finally, that this motion be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Rob Flack, Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Jenny Stevens, MPP for St. Catharines, Sam Oosterhoff, MPP for West Niagara, Jeff Birch, MPP for South Niagara, Wayne Gates, MPP for Niagara Falls, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and all Niagara municipalities requesting their support. Finally, Chair, I just want to thank you to the delegates because they mentioned things that I hadn't even thought of. So I appreciate both delegates. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Councillor Redekop.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to commend Councillor Bateman for putting this forward. She spent a lot of time and energy putting together the factual basis for this motion. And it's not a motion that attempts to cast blame on anyone. This is a motion that's based on fact and has pretty straightforward requests for the responsibilities of government to be shared. That kind of eroded about 30 years ago when the federal government decided it was going to balance its budget. It did that by downloading a number of things to the provincial government. And the provincial government thought that was such a great idea that they downloaded things to the regions and the municipalities. So things have, over that 3-decade period of time, gotten to the point where they are now. And programs where the federal government and the provincial government provided much greater funding on a predictable basis have disappeared to a great extent. Everything is application-based. Nothing is necessarily reliable for a long term. And that's not how businesses operate, and that's not how municipalities should be expected to operate. I think we've all been to conferences where the Premier and cabinet ministers have talked about municipalities being partners. Well, I couldn't agree more. We are partners. We're the entity that's on the ground, closest to the people, that provides the services to the people that they need on a daily basis. And we need assistance in providing those services and providing the infrastructure that is fundamental to the provision of those services. As an example, the province talks about building more houses. We all agree that that's necessary, but we can't build houses if we don't have the infrastructure. And so there is that disconnect just on that fundamental aspect. And as I said, the province talks about building houses. We all talk about building communities because that's what's important to the people who live in our municipalities. So I'm very supportive of this, and I hope that all members of council will support this because we do need more funding. And today, we received a delegation from Niagara College. Unbelievably good presentation, excellent project that they've got underway, something that will serve not only the municipalities in Niagara, but it will serve municipalities across this province. But why is it that the property taxpayer should be required to contribute to something that is fundamentally within the jurisdiction of the provincial government? The same thing with hospitals. And, you know, we've all heard the talking points from the province about the runaway tax increases in Niagara. We don't hear about why some of those tax increases are running away. We don't hear about the $44.5 million that this regional government has contributed to the new hospital in South Niagara, or the various contributions made by the same taxpayers in municipalities that are also contributing to that regional portion. We don't hear about how much money they're putting into that project, which is fundamentally the responsibility of the province. It's not sustainable. It can't continue. Because if it does continue, then the taxpayers at the local level will continue to be bearing the burden of things that are essentially and fundamentally provincial or federal. So I'm going to support this, and again, I thank Councillor Bateman for bringing it forward.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you, Councillor Redekop. Councillor Zalepa.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I can see this is a lot of work put into this. It definitely outlines a past history of even this council and municipalities in the Niagara region previously advocating for changes in the fiscal relationship. That this is not a new awareness, and I appreciate the history lesson. But I do overall like the intent and the ideas here and agree with it. I do have one part which I'll ask the chair to just pull out on a vote with it separately. Item 2, it's asking that council advocates for a new deal. First of all, not who are we advocating? I assume that's the federal and provincial governments, but it wasn't clear in the motion. And I think it's already repetitive because it's already item 1 and the other items in the motion actually address it anyways. And I guess I have a hard time, where we would advocate for a new deal just for Niagara, because I honestly don't see this as a Niagara only issue. This is a structural fiscal dysfunction in the country. And so I think it's really naive or perhaps not even cooperative with our sister municipalities across the country or the province who are all struggling with very similar, the exact same issue. I will ask a question to the staff chair if I could, understanding that the province does have some financial levers for dealing with tourism and tourism infrastructure, and that's a municipal accommodation tax. And I guess through the staff, and I'm not sure if they have the answer to this, but is the upper tier level government, is that a tool that an upper level tier government has available for them?
Turn this over to the commissioner.
Through the chair, that's a great question, Councillor. I will look into it and advise council.
Okay, and so I appreciate that. And I was considering all this, and I just think so. For me, I do agree with the motion, and I just that particular item 2. There's a funding mechanism that is a local municipality we've leveraged in a successful way. I know some of our local municipalities in the Niagara region have done the same thing with municipal accommodation tax. And it's specifically assigned a portion of that to tourism supporting infrastructure. So I think it's a little confusing to ask for something when there might be a mechanism or tool for you to draw on. In fact, it doesn't appear to be, it's not congruent. So anyways, so I just asked you to vote on that separate chair as number 2, so I can vote against that particular one. But the rest of the motion I do like. I do want to address comments. I agree with a lot of the material here in the motion. I do want to say, just address a comment that was made about appearance of like a member of the council having a inability to input on things. I can only speak for our experience in the town of Niagara Lake. Our council constituted a working group. Council members had an ability to work with that and to provide their input and information in a constructive and full way if they volunteered to participate. All that information went back through the council on a public meeting framework with fairly extensive engagement and very transparent information. So I just push back on that comment that I heard because that's not true. And so we also, I believe this council and this regional council had several public meetings discussing the challenges around governance in Niagara, with an opportunity for every single one of us around the table to provide their comments or thoughts on things. And so I didn't like that comment. I didn't think it was necessary with supporting this motion, because the motion is outlining very solid facts. So, Chair, thanks for letting me do that, and I hope you'll separate the item from at least number 2 so that can happen. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Zalepa will separate out item 2 when it comes to voting. Thank you. Councillor Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. I am happy to support the motion today. I will say I was happy to support it when AMO called for a new deal for cities. I was happy to support a similar motion when OBCM called for a new deal for cities. I was happy to support it when St. Catharines brought a motion, and I want to thank City Councillor McPherson for bringing that forward. I was happy to support it when we did the same thing here in Niagara Region. And so I guess a thanks to former Councillor Diana Hewson, as well as you, Chair, and your time on the AMO board, bringing this call to the region. I was also happy to support it when FCM brought out the report in 2024. Canada's growth as success, the case for municipal growth framework. And I hope everyone here has had a chance to read that report. I think it does a really good job of outlining exactly what the issues are. And it talks about, how municipal revenues are constrained because of the system that we have in place. It shows the fiscal imbalance between the revenues and the infrastructure obligations that have been discussed today. It identifies just how bad property tax actually is. I think we've all probably said the phrase, property tax is the most regressive form of tax, because it is. It also very clearly identifies the problem with respect to infrastructure. And for those who haven't read the report, Niagara Region actually makes an appearance with the wastewater treatment plant funding, and specifically speaking about the wastewater treatment plant funding and the problems that exist in trying to access the funding in those situations where, again, we're responsible for 60% of the infrastructure costs, but we only control 9% of the taxes. It also talks about the housing and homelessness, climate change adaptation, all of the different reasons why the fiscal framework just doesn't make sense. And part of the reason, I think we would all understand, it was a framework that was developed in 1867. It really hasn't been updated since then. But I think the country's changed pretty drastically, and the context of what municipalities are, what they're responsible for, has changed. The one thing I'll push back on, at one point it was stated that this should be our only priority. I will disagree with that. Well, this continues to be a priority, and it needs to continue a priority just like it has been for the last couple of years. We also have to be sure that we're identifying the areas that we shouldn't be in business for. And this is something that I know Councillor Encina and I have raised in the past. Looking at a core service review, going through value for money audit processes, we need to continue doing those things as well, because the reality is the message about a fiscal imbalance between municipalities and upper tiers is not new. If you go on to Google and you search fiscal imbalance municipality, the first link that comes up for me is an FCM report from 2006, talking about the same problems, talking about the same issues, talking about the same imbalance, and asking for similar measures to be taken. So from a regional perspective, I think we have to continue having more than just pushing this message as a priority. I think we have to be looking internally, just like at all of our municipalities. We have to be looking internally to find out where we can push to ensure we're keeping costs as low as possible in those areas that we control while delivering an appropriate level of services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cisco. Councillor Encina.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple brief comments. I will support this as I have in the past with these initiatives. I'm glad to see that the region has come forward with the Government Relations Department, which I'm hoping will bring us a little closer and make those contacts that we need to have on a daily basis, not just from a monthly or whatever. So I'm hoping that they're going to be engaged and they can come back to us and say, this is what this is what's happening. This is our way forward. I'm being a bit optimistic through you, Chair, because I'm looking at when it was announced about Destination Niagara, I'm looking at that and I am so hopeful that things are going to come our way and it's going to be funded. That's the number one. I'm really looking at what are we going to get and how is it going to be funded by the province. And the way I'm reading it is that I am hopeful, and like I say, I am optimistic that's going to happen, and I hope it does. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But like I say, I'm looking towards our government relations unit that's going to keep us in touch with that and bring us the updates. And I'm sort of looking at the deputy CEO and the CAO to hopefully look and they'll be able to do that for us. I'm hoping, is that a possibility?
You've got a lot of nodding heads.
Nodding
here,
heads, perfect.
so, yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Encina. Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for this motion. I'll be voting in favor of it, but I want to make sure that we understand that items such as the funding from Destination Niagara are very positive steps. I'm glad that Councillor Encina brought that up. But I also want to review the budget that we just did a little bit. That budget was took a longer term focus, which I appreciate very much, and this was placed on us by the government in terms of the asset management program that had to be, the asset management plan and the valuation of our assets, which had to be done by a certain point in time, and it gave us a better perspective, which is 10 years, and I think this is a positive step. I saw many times where we had taken steps to address the housing and other things with deliverable small steps, which may not seem to be completely adequate, but over time they'll serve us very well in the community, I think. So with that long-term focus, I think those were the positives, but the budget revealed a lot of vulnerabilities too and weaknesses, and I think the fact that we're forced to fund things that perhaps we shouldn't be looking at, things that like, for example, what we heard this morning of funding long-term or post-secondary education. But I think we've made a lot of strides, and I'm going to support this, but also want to recognize that it's not entirely the issue of the other government levels, but it's also an issue of our spending here. We still have vulnerabilities, and I'd like to make sure that the focus stays on that, which has been on that after the budget and after the governance review. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Bateman.
Chair, like how frustrating it's like the Twilight Zone in here. First of all, I reached out to the former chair, I reached out to my mayor, I reached out to Minister Flack, I reached out to the premier, all of which said they would engage in meaningful discussion about the changes at Regional Council. None replied to me. We have not had a meeting about the changes at this council. I am directly elected to this council, and we have not had a meeting about it. So I take issue with that. I do. It's hard not to have an ego when my mayor mentions everybody and their mother except me who brought the motion here today. This motion has not been here, and there's been no other motion like it. This is Niagara specific. It talks about all of the pressure specific to our tourism industry. That's what this talks about. A lot of work went into this. So, like, to not even acknowledge that, to mention a whole bunch of other people and not me or Councillor Redicott, it's like, I don't know, it's just entirely disrespectful, but I guess it's the way of this council for councillors. And I hope to God that we support this unanimously. There is no partisanship in this whatsoever. Of course, we have other things that we need to talk about. But again, we had somebody here asking us for money today. We can't get an answer on a municipal accommodation tax right now, knowing that this motion was coming forward. We should have that information. Staff should be able to answer that. And I'm really sorry, I'm upset, but for the love of God, like, we should have those answers. I don't know why we don't have them. We should know how much money immediately we get from a municipal accommodation tax when we are the Niagara region, the #1 tourist destination in all of Canada, apparently. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. How much work goes into this council, and honestly, the lack of respect is off the chart. I will be asking for a recorded vote. You can dismantle this however you like. I, of course, am in support of it, and I think it is the way forward. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Whalen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Bateman for bringing this forward. I know there's 19 of us around here that weren't mayors, but nobody's approached us. Nobody's asked us for our opinion, which is kind of lousy. You talk about Councillor, I don't want to bring names up from Niagara-on-the-Lake. Sure, they met amongst their own council. Where'd it go? In their minutes in Niagara-on-the-Lake? Went no further. Nobody approached us, 19 of us, or elected officials, the same as the mayors are here. So it's kind of slighted that we're not even in the equation. Now, we have a quotation here about FCM and AMO looking after us. Where did it go? Councillor Redicott made a mention that 30 years things have been downloaded on this region and most of Ontario. You ever heard the word upload? Never. So it's about time we were on equal ground with everybody else and get represented equally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see no other speakers up on the list. So with that, we're going to have two votes. Both will be called. The first vote will be on Section 2 by itself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bateman.
Support.
Councillor Campion.
No.
Councillor Diodati.
Opposed?
Acting Chair Ginan. Councillor Grant.
Support.
Councillor Height.
Support.
Councillor Encina.
No.
Councillor Olson.
Support.
Councillor Redicott.
Yes.
Councillor Seaborn.
Support.
Councillor Secord.
Support.
Councillor Cisco.
Still support.
Councillor Whalen. Support. Councillor Zalepa.
No.
Chair Foster.
No.
And
So
that's carried.
So the rest of the motion now, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is now on the floor. Let us go into that one.
Councillor Bateman.
Support.
Councillor Campion.
Support.
Councillor Diodati.
In favor?
Acting Regional Chair Ginan.
Support.
Councillor Grant.
Support.
Councillor Height.
Support.
Councillor Encina.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Support.
Councillor Redicott.
Yes.
Councillor Seaborn.
Support.
Councillor Secord.
I'll support, but you know what? Sorry, wasn't paying attention in reverse. The last vote, I was a no, even though I said support. Please change that.
Okay. Councillor
Sorry.
Cisco.
Support.
Councillor Whalen.
Definitely support.
Counselor Zalepa,
Yes.
Chair Foster,
Support.
and that's carried unanimously.
Okay, so the first one.
Uh, 9 to 6.
So the first section was 1, 9 to 6, and the second part was unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Good discussion. Let us move on to our consent items this morning. Does any member wish to vote on any of the consent items separately this morning? Seeing none. Councillor Bateman?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I have a question about the insurance, but I'm not
So
sure.
do you wish to vote with that separately, which is the question
Well,
on the floor?
I have questions about it, so that may change my
That's fine,
vote.
you can ask questions.
I don't know that it should be, okay, I'll ask the question and you can tell me if it should be in closed
Okay,
session. Thank you. So this is around CSD 17-2026. So we have been contacted by members of the public specific to business and licensing around concerns about pushing to certain insurers. And I'm wondering if staff can speak to that.
I'm going to turn it over to Director Gibbs.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. I would suggest to the council, although I appreciate the question, that that's actually separate from the subject matter of this report.
Okay.
This report is really related to the region's insurance program, how we insure our operations, our assets, etc. I think what you're referring to are the operational requirements that are included in the business licensing bylaws for businesses that are licensed under the region and the type of insurance they have to carry.
Correct.
So happy for those questions to be provided to staff for a response, but not related to this report specifically.
Okay, so there's no correlation between those, is my,
Through the chair, there is not.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll take the three reports as a block. Can I get Councillor Encina to move and Councillor Zalepa to second that we
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, great, thank you. Any questions, any additional questions to either or any of these reports? Councillor Bateman, please go ahead.
Thank you. With respect to the bylaw officer appointments, do we do vulnerable sector checks?
Through you, Chair, there are various positions in the region that are required to have criminal record checks. I believe these qualify, but I can confirm that for you.
Thank you. And it wasn't criminal record checks, it was vulnerable sector checks that I'm speaking to, and there are differences in those.
Through you, Chair, I can confirm, but I don't believe that we would ask, there would be a need for staff to have a vulnerable sector check because those relate to working specifically with youth, which our bylaw enforcement officers would not be.
So there's no, they're not enforcing bylaws on businesses that would have youth at it.
Through you, Chair, typically not, no.
So what are they through you?
There's only specific things that the region license, through you, Chair. So secondhand shops, salvage yards, our transportation network company drivers, taxi drivers, taxi cab brokers, those kinds of things, but I can confirm for you.
So there's no childcare facilities, there's no youth sports clubs or?
We don't license anything like that, no.
Nothing like that. Okay. Through you, Chair, we had some concern about one of our bylaw officers and that person's background. And that was brought to this council through an email, and it was published in the St. Catharines Standard. So I have concerns around that, and I reached out to staff about that, and I wasn't satisfied with the answer. So how do we approach that?
My understanding is personnel issues within Niagara region flow through the CAO, so if you have concerns, please reach out to the CAO.
Okay, so we could have a meeting about that? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Redekop.
Thank you, Chair. Collateral to COM 7 2026, which I support. There have been stored in Fort Erie on the County Fair Mall site where Gilmore Lodge is located, a number of trailers, which I think had been intended perhaps for use as temporary shelters. They're supposed to be removed by the end of April. What's the destiny for those trailers?
Apparently Mayor Cisco knows.
Amazingly enough, I have the answer for you.
Perfect.
They are, I believe, a part of the new shelter that will be getting built in St. Catharines once the location is identified. So they've been stored there for a while. I only know this because my mother lives in Fort Erie and she's been asking me incessantly every month for the last 12, 18 months, as long as they've been there. But yes, my understanding is they will be moved as soon as the location is identified.
I wonder if that's an invitation to have other residents of Fort Erie contact the mayor of St. Catharines.
His number.
Chair, I should clarify, for the first 8 months, I didn't know what she was talking about, and someone kept telling her, I think they're going to St. Catharines, and I kept saying, I don't know what she's talking about, but Mr. Bannock at NRH let me know that that's what they are.
Yes, you're good now? Okay. See no other speakers. Please vote electronically, yes or no. And that is carried. We don't have to go into closed session because we've dealt with issues already, but there is a confidential appendix that goes along with this, so with that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's done.
Yeah.
So just go right to other business.
The clerk is trying to confuse me, but that's kind of the way the day has been. That was carried, by the way. So the closed session, so the confidential appendix 1 to report CSD 17-2026, municipal insurance program renewal update. And can I get, it was approved as part of it?
The actual open session.
Okay. Let us continue. Ignore what I just said in the last minute and a half. Yep. So let us move to other business. Does anybody have any other business this morning? Councillor Olson, Councillor Bateman first, then Councillor Olson.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. When is our social procurement policy coming back?
Through you, Chair. We are in the process of our RFP right now. So once we engage in that, we'll be able to further set that timing for you, Councillor Bateman.
Respectfully, Chair, it has been 4 years since this has come to council. It came to the last council. Councillor Houston, again, asked for it. The previous council, we've asked for it repeatedly every few months, and that is not an answer. So we have been given dates, but I'm looking for a date.
Councillor Bateman, I think what I would say to this is that you're actually seeing some movement with us getting out to the street and getting to market with the work. So I'm happy to bring it back. I will confer with Director Minaj, and we will update the timing on that.
Well, when is that update coming, Chair?
I think it would be through the June cycle. I think we're past the May cycle already, so it would be in the June cycle.
So we expect it at Corporate Services in June. I just want to be clear, Chair.
Councillor Olson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask a question, or maybe it's a request an opinion or a report on development charges and the way development charges are paid. And I'm specifically suggesting that perhaps there's a possibility that the development charges could become payable according to the stage of completion of a project, rather than the entire amount being paid at the beginning of when the building permit is pulled. So I'm just wondering if I could, what the procedure would be to ask a report or an opinion, or just simply information, or would you like to think about that until next meeting?
I'm having a tough time hearing. Associate Director Chen.
Through the chair to the counselor, thank you for the question. I believe this
I
question.
I can't hear that.
Can you hear me right now? Okay.
I can, yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair to the counselor, I believe this question was also raised at the March Corporate Services Committee. So staff have given it some consideration. I believe the question was asking about the timing of development charges collection here at the region, depending on the types of services, the charges or the development fees are associated to. So my understanding is there are, at a high level, there are hard services and soft services when it comes to development charges. So usually under the hard services, there are services associated with transportation, roads and water and wastewater. Those are the more foundational services that would need to be in place in order to support the development. Whereas some of the soft services include, fire services, police, waste management, long-term care, etc. Here at the region, the practice has been that all development charges associated with all the services are collected together at the same time. According to the province's recent legislative change, all residential development charges have been deferred to occupancy. So right now, the process is that all DCs are not collected until occupancy to better support the cash flow of the development community, to support housing supply and affordability. So we've been following that legislative requirement. But if it's council's will to direct staff to come back with more information on, I guess, differentiating the timing of collecting hard versus soft services, staff will be happy to do that.
Thank you, Chair, and I do remember I raised that in the March meeting, and I guess I understand what's happening here, but there are many facets of this, and I think the potential benefit is great enough to ask for a written report, I believe, for perhaps the next meeting or whenever it could be.
So without creating more work for staff, I'm just wondering, we have the DC bylaw review committee. Would that make sense that overall discussion should be with that, or what's your recommendation, Mr. CAO?
Thank you, through you, Chair. That is exactly what my recommendation would be. That's where this consideration ought to be best placed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I accept that. That's fine. That leadership in that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Encina?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking to staff with regards to the excess property at the new Gilmore Lodge facility. When and if what size parcel will be handed over to NRH for development, and does it need a motion to come through, or what are the plans that are being put forward? If you want to come back at a later date, that's fine.
So through the chair, we're happy to come back at a later date and provide additional information to committee. That being said, we're working through a development approvals process for the residual lands at that site. We'll be working directly with Fort Erie as well as NRH with respect to potential affordable housing opportunities, not just in Fort Erie, but also in the site in St. Catharines. That being said, I don't know. Working with NRH, there is the potential for it to be an NRH build or another not-for-profit build in those locations. That's supported by NRH. So we're still working through some of the details associated with that, but we've been working with Fort Erie and St. Catharines staff on both of those properties. And, we're happy to report back to committee a little further into that process.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Encina. And with that, it looks like we've come to the end of the meeting. So I will adjourn. We will be meeting once more on Wednesday, May the 13th at 9:30 a.m. here in Council Chambers. Have a great day.